Live on Facebook.
Hello, everyone. We'll get started here in just a second. Just wait for all the things to take place. Boom. We're on Facebook. Good morning, Andrea. How are you today?
Good morning, Doc. I'm great. Just living the lake life up here in northern Michigan.
Northern Michigan with Gretchen.
Yeah. Got the grandkids out hunting salamanders and fishing and swimming and
Salamander. Holy cow, I haven't seen a salamander in decades.
I know, I hadn't either, and they kind of started moving in here a few years ago.
Wow, what's that mean?
I don't know. Trying to escape somewhere else, maybe.
They're trying to escape to northern Michigan.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting things happening in the world again. Always. Nothing boring, right?
No, it's a grand adventure.
Yeah. I started reading a couple new books. Made me think.
I saw one you promoted. David Sinclair. Yep.
Lifespan. Why we age and why we don't have to. Interesting title, isn't it?
Yes.
Why we don't have to. David Sinclair was very instrumental in all the research behind resveratrol. Didn't he get a Nobel Prize for that?
Yes.
Or somebody did.
Him and his team, yeah.
Yeah, Nobel Prize.
He was kind of he was the front runner on the whole thing, but I think he had a team of researchers.
Yep. Yeah, and resveratrol, it hit the headlines. I remember when all of a sudden everybody was drinking red wine. Oh, it's good for you. It's good for you. It'll make you live longer. Remember that?
No, not quite.
But you remember when they were pushing that?
Yeah. Well, I remember when I learned about resveratrol, I was like, okay, I don't know how to pronounce it. Let's figure this out. And then I went on Google and looked, and there was scads of information on resveratrol.
Yeah. But when they first came out with resveratrol supplements, the problem with it was that it wasn't the right kind of resveratrol. And so then they came back and they told Dr. Sinclair, oh, you falsified your records. You falsified your data.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Yep. I've heard him speak about that.
Yep. And he was, I've read where he was basically said, he's like, oh, no, I didn't. He said, so I went back and tried to figure out what could have gone wrong.
Right.
And then it turned out that the other researchers were using the wrong kind of resveratrol.
Right. And he was vindicated.
Yeah. And it turned out that resveratrol wasn't the anti-aging secret. It wasn't the
well, it was the best thing they had then. We've got new research.
and it prompted more research.
Mm-hmm.
It prompted more research, and that's the cool part about it. I'm reading this book.
The future is faster than you think. What's that about?
How converging technologies are transforming businesses, industries, and our lives.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
It is. Are you being sarcastic or?
No, serious.
Yeah. I like thinking about the future. I remember when I was going to school for engineering, we took a technology and change class. That was the name of the class. And it was one of those introductory classes that every engineering student at NDSU had to take.
Okay.
And it started out basically, they showed, a caveman. This is kind of the class, a caveman discovering fire.
Uh-huh.
And how that discovery of fire led to the computer. And how the discovery of the wheel, just a simple wheel. Why is a wheel that's round better than a wheel that's square?
Uh-huh.
Right?
Elementary technology.
But, at some point in time, you and I don't even think about that, but at some point in time, somebody had to come up with that idea.
That's right.
Somebody had to come up with an idea. And so they took that technology and they showed, the invention of the fire and the wheel and how it moved to the invention of the computer. And now, heck, look at it. I've got a computer right here in my hand. You're on a computer right now that is more powerful than the computer they used to send man to the moon.
Yeah, I can remember going to summer camp, and I was about 10. And I don't know why they showed this to us, but they made us sit in a lodge and watch a movie about the new computer that was coming, the new computer chip. So that would have been 1964.
1964.
But we didn't really start using computers until about what, mid 80s? I mean, on a regular basis. They used them the size of rooms,
Right.
But it was like late 80s, early 90s before you really had personal computers to use.
Right. Yeah. When I was in high school, I was bored with high school, and I started taking classes at the local college, which was 40 miles drive. And my mom and I actually took these classes together on computer languages, computer programming.
Oh, I hated that class.
And I enjoyed it. I mean, I was really good at it. I could write computer programs pretty quickly, but it was all on punch cards. Remember punch cards?
Yeah.
And the languages that we used was BAL and COBOL and Fortran and all those different old languages, And
right.
I remember when I finished up the class, I was 16 years old back in 1978. And the dean or the head of the department, computer technology department down at Wahpeton at the North Dakota State School of Science, he said, Kurt, he said, you should go into computers. You're pretty good at it. And I just remember thinking to myself, holy cow, you got this big boxes and stacks of computer cards. And I went, computers are going nowhere. I mean, you got a computer that takes up the size of my house.
Plus, you're a people person.
And tape backups. And then, so I went to school for mechanical engineering up at NDSU. And at that time, that was 1980, you still didn't have a personal computer at your house. You could rent a unit that would be connected back to the school's mainframe computer.
Mm-hmm.
But can you imagine how slow that technology must have been back then with landlines?
Oh, I remember the first computer I got it would drive me crazy today.
Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden we had the TA65 or the TI65 Texas Instrument calculators. They were about the size of our phone. They were bigger than our phone.
Yeah.
Just to do mathematical calculations.
Right.
The scientific calculator. I probably still got mine that I saved because I thought, oh, I'll need this later on in life.
Well, that's the thing. We think that things aren't going to change that much, and we're on the brink of a total technology explosion.
Oh, it's crazy, Andrew. And that's why I thought, so many people, they get on my case and they say, Kurt, why do you take those gobs and gobs and gobs of supplements and health drinks and all these different things? Why do you do that? You don't need that.
Really?
And yeah, that's what people tell me. And I'm like, well, I mean, let's just take a look at it. Let's just take a look at it. From 100, 150 years ago till today, we've doubled the longevity of the human race.
Uh-huh.
Right? We're living longer. Back in the 1800s, if you lived to be 50, you were old.
Right.
Now, 80. 80 is common.
But you and I are looking at a much longer lifespan or health span, actually.
So I was just writing notes. I always jot notes down before I do my calls. I don't like to jump on here kind of empty-handed and things like that. In Japan, right now, they're predicting or they're estimating that a newborn born today or in the future, has a 50% chance of living to be 107 years old.
107, huh?
107. Think about that. 50% of the kids born today will live to be 107.
That's cool, but based on the technology that's coming, I'm going to guess it's longer than that.
Well, this is just based on what they're seeing based on today's, information. Right. And they're saying here in the United States, 104.
Mm-hmm.
104. Right? And
yep.
So I read up on all this, books like this and all that, and I read a lot more than that. And with all the things that we have, I mean, think about it. We've got science right now that's been developed that they're using right now. They can take animal models, right? Because we're not applying a lot of to humans yet, but we're applying it to animal models, and we're increasing the lifespan of animals, certain animals, by 10 to 40%.
Yep.
10 to 40%. Think about that, Andrea. I mean, if we increase the human lifespan by just 10%, that's another 8 years.
Right.
Okay. So let's just run with that. And wouldn't you say that, okay, that's based on stuff that we know today. That's stuff we know today.
Right.
And our knowledge is expanding so much that in the next 5 years, what we know today is going to be obsolete. That's why Tom keeps reformulating all the products that we have, because, with Sizzle, for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, I mean, Sizzle is the company that we represent. They make great nutritional anti-aging products. But so the technology, the stuff that we know today is going to be obsolete in 5 years. So wouldn't you say in 5 years that we're going to know enough that we can increase lifespan by another 10%?
Oh, for sure.
So now we're up to 16 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's just being very conservative. And we've got these 3D printers right now that they can print new organs, like they can make kidneys, they can make hearts, they can make livers with 3D printers.
I don't even understand that. That's crazy to me.
It is crazy, isn't it? But they take and they make the matrix, the cellular matrix, and then they just have to add the life. They add the life to it, right?
The element. Yeah.
Yeah, the element of life, but they add the what gives it life, what makes it alive. It's alive, right? It's alive. So wouldn't you say that would increase life again by another 10%?
Oh yeah, for sure.
So now we're up to 25 years. We've done three things. We've applied what we already know. We applied what we're going to know in the next 5 years, and we have applied 3D printing.
Okay.
That's it. And we've already added 25 years. We're up to 105. 80 plus 25 is 105. We haven't even taken into consideration that what else are we going to learn?
Oh, I think we're going to be blown away by what happens. My daughter just graduated and became a RN last year, or my granddaughter, and she's going to go on and become a anesthesiologist.
Nice.
And that's her goal. And I'm thinking in my head, because we've heard Tom talk about so many of the jobs we have today will be changed by technology in the next 5 to 10 years. And I'm thinking, they might not even need anesthesiologists in 5 to 10 years. They might do everything through energy and frequency and not even do actual surgery.
That's right. Little bots that they can put into your bloodstream, and it goes and it repairs things. Yeah. I mean, as we travel more to this Star Trek type of a world,
Yep.
They're saying right now, for every month that you stay alive, you increase your lifespan by 1 week.
Every month by 1 week. Yeah.
So if you stay alive for another month, it gives you another week. So basically, for every month, you're getting 5. They add that. That's 5 weeks, right? They're saying in the not too distant future, like in the next 5 years, for every month that you stay alive, it gives you 2 weeks of extra lifespan.
It's awesome.
I mean, think about that. So how long will it take before, for every month that you stay alive, you get another month of life?
Yeah. Who knows? What? 10 years, 15 years?
Is the public ready for it? Are we ready for it? Is the population ready for that?
Well, I think people who are health seekers are following this trend, seeing what's happening, but then we have a whole lot of people who don't really protect their health, think about their health, and then suddenly one day they have, a whole body full of conditions they didn't expect, I guess. I don't know how they didn't, but, and then they have to come to grips with that.
Yeah.
But we're health seekers. So
yeah. Well, who was that famous musician that said, if I'd known that I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself?
Hey, I heard my own dad say that.
Yeah.
Only it was a little different because he ended up with COPD, heart problems, and on oxygen and using a nebulizer from smoking from the age of 11 on. And he sat down with me at lunch one time and said, if I had ever known that I would have had to live like this, I never would have started smoking.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, just think about that. That's just smoking.
That's just smoking.
Yep. And if we go back, I've been reading stuff, and I like to read, and they predicted way back 100 years ago, and back in 1908, so actually 112 years ago, that food would be so low in nutrition that it really wouldn't be healthy for us.
Pretty much there.
They predicted it over 100 years ago, right? So here we are. So people ask me, they say, hey, Kurt, why do you take all these vitamins? Why do you take all those supplements? Why do you do those things? Well, because I read up on those things, and you'll see me, do where I do the hashtag DocFizKnows, because I read up on that stuff, and I'm like, look, I'm looking at the numbers. I'm 58 years old. And average lifespan, I mean, is 80, and they're predicting that if you make it to 80, I mean, you got a pretty good chance that you're gonna make it to 90. If you make it to 90, you got a pretty good chance you can make it to 95. And they got these.
You talked before about when you reach a certain age, like you were discussing your parents. When you reach a certain age, actually the drop off stops. It levels out.
Yeah, I look at my mom and dad now. I mean, they both beat cancer. Mom's beat some heart disease. My dad, he's 82. He's 82, and I was just down there on last Saturday, just 4 days ago, I guess. And I was talking to Dad, and we're doing our social distancing. We're sitting 6 feet apart, and I mean, okay. And Dad was telling me, he said that they're cutting back on the one medication that he's on. He takes Synthroid, thyroid medication. Back when he was in his 50s, when I was still in chiropractic college, he was diagnosed with a bad thyroid, and so they put him on Synthroid, and he was on a relatively high dose, and it's the amount of Synthroid that he has to take now is going down. And he said, Kurt, he says, I think those products that you have me on are making my thyroid so that it's working the way it's supposed to work. I mean, think about that. At 82, he's taking less medicine than he did when he was 55.
Yeah, well, you said he keeps surprising the doctors at Mayo Clinic. Like, how are your kidneys improving? How is your liver improving? you know.
Yep. He was telling me if that doctor hadn't have botched up on his knee surgery,
Mm-hmm.
he would feel great.
Yeah,
He wouldn't feel any health problems at all at 82,
that's awesome.
right? If the doctor hadn't have botched up on his knee surgery. Think about that,
Yeah.
right? And you know, when I first started getting mom and dad taking these different nutritional products, you know, this voodoo medicine and whatever else, you know, that I do.
Magic potions.
Yeah, people were like, "Oh, why you ripping them off? Why you selling?" Well, come on, look at it.
And look what the result is.
Yeah, and we can't
After
say,
very few years, really.
yeah, we can't say that these products did anything, right? All we can say is that, you know, based on the science behind what's in the products, and there's actual science behind every single product that I recommend, every single product that I take. I mean, I can go on the web and I can find on Google Scholar, I can find on PubMed, I can find research that backs up
Mm-hmm.
every single extract that's in these products. Now, I can't find research on the product because we aren't a research facility,
Right.
right? That's why we can't make medical claims on our product. We can only make medical claims, or we can only make claims on the actual extracts in the product. But think about it. I mean, wouldn't you say at least 1/3 of people are looking at this and going, holy cow, I am going to live longer?
Yeah. Well, take the bad out and put the good in, and you have a better
At least
chance.
1/3 are going to say that.
Mm-hmm.
And are they doing anything about it? Are they
Some are.
exercising more? Are they getting, you know, adequate sleep? Are they doing this? Are they doing all the things? Well, last year, Mayo Clinic put out that study, and they said that it was actually less than 3% that were doing the minimum requirements.
3%.
Minimum. 3%.
That's 97% aren't.
97% aren't. I'm glad you pointed that out, right? But so chances are you're going to fall in the 97%, not the 3%. I looked at their criteria, and I'm in the 3%.
Awesome.
Yeah, you know. So maybe people start paying attention to what you and I are doing, and saying, okay, if Mayo Clinic says only 3% are following this minimum criteria, maybe we ought to start taking a look at it. I mean, think about the future, Andrea. I mean, they're going to have tests that they can basically walk you through a scanner, and it's going to say, oh, you got a problem here, you got a problem there. And, you know, remember that, you know, Doc McCoy on Star Trek, he had that little, what do you call his little scanner?
I don't know. I'm not a Trekkie.
Oh, you're not a Trekkie. Obviously I'm not either. But he'd scan people, and you know, he'd run that over your body, and you know, comment on our Facebook post here, folks. I mean, add to the conversation. What was the scanner? What did Doc McCoy? What was that scanner they used? But you know, I mean, think about that. They could take and they could rebuild you right there on the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They could rebuild you. And remember, they went to all those different places, those planets, and far away galaxies. And maybe I'm mixing Star Trek with Star Wars, but you know, there was planets that they went to where they could regenerate your body. They could make you younger again. They could make you so that you were, you know, 20 years old.
Right.
A
Well,
newer,
you know,
younger version of you.
there is some pretty cool technology out there. We know a doctor who has an amazing array of devices. And I remember when we went to his office, he had a computer that was just going with data. And he says, yeah, I'm testing a guy who lives over on the West Coast. I got a piece of his fingernail here in this thing. And we're testing what he needs to improve his health. Isn't that amazing?
Seems kind of hokey almost, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah,
I mean,
it's
almost
not.
to the point.
I have another friend in New York um, who does some natural therapies, and she bought one of those devices too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, medical errors and misdiagnoses, that'll be the thing of the past, right? They
Wouldn't that be
predict,
great?
yeah, they say right now that it's the number 3 killer of people in the Western world, right? Misdiagnosis,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. I mean, they're gonna be able to treat and cure things like MS and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and heart disease and cancer and all those different things. And I say it's not that far away. It's not that
No,
far
I,
away,
I don't think so either.
you know. And so we're just coming to the edge of this. We're just, you know. So if you do the things that you can do to stay alive another month,
Mm-hmm.
another year, another
Mm-hmm.
5 years, another decade,
Yeah,
will we
that's what
have
I
the
kept telling.
tools? Will we
Yeah,
have the
that's what
tools and the technology to be here a lot
a
longer?
while. Yeah, yeah.
Well, you know, I look back and I know you don't really care for Bill Gates. A lot of people do not. And there's some things about him that I don't like. But he wrote a book back in the 90s, and he really didn't write much about the internet in his book. And he
Mm-hmm.
later went on and he made an abridged version of his book. He edited his book and he added things about the internet. And he said, I didn't realize how much it would become part of everyday life. That was what he said.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't predict, he didn't know back in 1995, he underestimated the power of the internet. Now, I mean, you get something wrong with your nose, you get a runny nose. What do? You Google it and you try and find out what's wrong with me.
Right.
You get a spot on your hand. What do? You Google it and you try and, I mean, Google has become a verb,
Right.
right? And when you were a kid, did you ever hear the word Google?
No, I still don't know why they named it that.
Right? And so you take a look at politicians, and you take a look at business owners, and you take a look at all these world leaders, and you take a look at healthcare providers, and you take a look at colleges, and you take all these people that kind of shape and make our world. They're accepting that the world is getting older and that we will see people living well over 100. I mean, think about it. That lady that died a couple of years ago, back in 2018, I think it was 2 years ago. She was 119 years old. She was the oldest living person at that time, and I mean, she had been around. She had been around since 1899. She was the
Yeah.
last person that was born in the 1800s that they had records from. She was the last person born in the 1800s. There's no more people on the planet that were born in the 1800s. So
Yeah, that's
she had
pretty cool.
lived, yeah, she had lived through basically the invention of the automobile and the airplane, and she had gone from horse and buggy to spaceships to, electric cars and all these different things. What about us? What are we going to see?
Oh, it's going to be amazing.
It's gonna be amazing. Um, but then you see these people who are just doomsdayers, and they're like, oh, it's like Stephen Hawking. I never liked that guy. I mean, I just didn't like him. He said that we're on the just
Crash
the
course.
devastation of the planet. He said if human beings have 1,000 years left on the planet, we're lucky. He said, if we want to uh, propel the human race, this was back in 2016. He said, we have 100 years to find a new planet. He said, otherwise, we're done. Human race, gone. Wiped off the face of the whole solar system. The human race, gone.
Well, I guess you didn't read the plan. because that's
right?
not the plan.
But that's what he said. And so many people, they tell me, they say, oh, but we don't have enough resources. We don't have enough water. We don't have enough food.
That's baloney. What we don't have is enough ability to go out and create because we're being suppressed.
We're being suppressed. We're being suppressed. We're being held down, right? And we're being led with fear and all that. People, I mean, I'm just saying, like, and I know Andrew will agree with me. We got to go out there and we just got to be, hey, look, this is going to happen. We are going to live longer than our parents. We are going to live longer than our grandparents. I mean, longevity is in my family. I mean, if I go back and look at people, I mean, it was pretty normal to see people in my family live to be over 100 years old.
That's awesome. You already
Yeah.
have an advantage.
It gives me an advantage, right? And then we had some that died young, right? On my father's side, it seems like, cancer seems to run that side of the family. But so as we become an older planet, and this is now the United Nations is saying that every single country is experiencing the growth of their elderly population. And the problem with it right now is that they're looking at the current model. They're saying that with the current model of disease, that we're gonna bankrupt the world, taking care of the old people.
It all goes back to that the mentality, whether you have a positive or a negative mentality, and they operate on negativism. Yeah. They don't operate on the possibility of what can happen.
But they're basing it on current trends. They're not looking at, like I said, 10 years from now we'll have this, 10 years from there we'll have that. I mean, if my dad makes it another 10 years, another decade, and he says he's gonna, that's his goal. He wants to. He said, I made it to 82. He said, now I'm going to live to be 92. That's my dad. That's my dad.
And once he hits that, he'll probably live longer than that.
They say if he can make it to 92, his chances of making it over 95 are pretty darn good. And if he makes it over 95, his chances to make it to 100 are pretty darn good. Right? And so people are looking at this and they're predicting this and they're saying, okay, so where's this money all going to come from? Well, the thing about it is, as we teach people how to stay healthy, and this is the thing that we have to look at, how do we teach people how to stay healthy? As we teach people how to stay healthy, healthcare costs are going to go down, and we're going to make these elderly people being the consultants. They don't have to go out and get a job shoveling, dirt. They don't have to get a job cutting trees. They can have a job consulting. Okay, here's what this 83-year-old guy did.
Because they have a lot of wisdom. Yeah.
They've been around. Think about the guys like Socrates and Hippocrates and what made them, Leonardo da Vinci, what made them so that they were the guys that today, even in today's world, we look back at them, because they were the elders of the tribe back then. They were the elders of the tribe back then. And wouldn't it be cool if we did the same thing with our current population and we said, hey, Andrea, when you get to be 90 years old, you're one of the elders of the tribe. Tell us what you did for this. But instead, what we're doing is we're erasing history. I mean, you take and you talk to these young kids today, a lot of them, I was just reading the other day, a lot of them, they show a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and a lot of these kids don't even know who Abraham Lincoln is by looking at his photo.
Yeah, that's scary.
Right? They don't know why the United States entered World War II. Why did we enter the World War II? Right? They don't know why. They don't know history. And the problem with it is that if you don't know history, you're going to repeat it.
Yep. Gotta live and learn.
If you don't know your history, you're going to repeat it. So anyhow, Andrea, I know that you're enjoying yourself at the lake. It's 12:30. Thanks for taking time with us today and sharing. It's a lot of fun. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I like thinking about the future And, you know, my biggest problem is I beat the crap out of myself for the first 50 years of my life. And now I'm having to go back and repair things. But, you know, I'll be honest with you. 13 years ago, I got in a motorcycle wreck that, you know, it should have killed me. It didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it leads me to believe even more so in my purpose, that I tell people my purpose for being here is to help people, you know, live happier, healthier, stress-free lives. But just in the last month, I've improved my own health. I can walk further today than I
That's
could a
awesome.
year ago. Than a
That's
year ago.
awesome.
I mean, you and I were on our trip around, you know, the central part of America, you
Last
know,
year,
down
yeah.
to Texas and Oklahoma and all that. And I was limping. I had a pretty good limp yet.
Yep.
Yesterday I was walking and I was thinking about it as I was walking to my truck, from the boat to the truck. And I thought, you know what? I'm not even limping.
Awesome. High five.
Yeah. Well, we're not supposed to do high five. Elbow.
I don't do elbows.
Virtual high five. There you go.
Yes.
But, you know, folks, well, thanks for being with us today. Thanks for taking a half hour of your time. For those of you who listen to the recording, you know, share it with people. I mean, the whole thing is that we got to get people thinking about this. We get just that thought of what if
Yes.
what if I'm right?
Expand your thinking.
What if I'm right? What would you do
Mhm.
different if you
Right?
knew that you're going to live another 10 years longer than what you thought you were going to? What would you do
Yeah.
different if you knew that you were going to live another 25 years longer than you thought you were going to live? What would you do
Mhm.
different if you knew that you were going to live to be 100 years old? What would you be doing different? And what would you teach your kids and your grandkids to do different if you knew that
Right?
they were going to live to be? I mean, I don't have any grandkids yet, but when I do, right, based on the predictions that I just told you, 50% of my grandkids will live to be 104, 105 years old if they're born in the
Mhm.
United States. 104.
Yep.
I mean, holy cow. So, Andrea, thanks for being with us today. Enjoy your time at the lakes. For folks, for being
Thank
here with
you.
us today, thank you.
Thank you. Have a great week. I'll talk to you later.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.